Hi, my name is Lord Dookie, and Terraria is based. Terraria is a game where you fight enemies, mine various ores, make various weapons, and overall it's a very grindy game. But the grind, unlike most, where it's very boring and monotonous, it's oddly adventurous, I guess, because there's so many enemies and so much different loot. A simple mining expedition could turn into literally anything. Terraria is an extremely random game, and that's kind of why I love it. Terraria is not only a very random game, it's also a very hard one. Anyone who's played Terraria knows what I'm talking about. This game is hard. It's not like Hollow Knight level hard, but it is hard. Some of the boss fights just get insane. Duke Fishron. There's also, like, very overpowered weapons, and it all really depends on how you play. If you are constantly over-preparing, always having the best potions, always trying to get the best weapons and best accessories, you will breeze through the game pretty quickly, but half the time you're really just goofing around, seeing what all there is. So 90% of the time, when you fight a boss, you are under-equipped, don't know what you're doing, and have no potions, which in my opinion is the best way to play the game. The weapon sandbox is also quite diverse. There's a lot of weapons to pick. The four main classes, there's melee, ranger, mage, and summoner. Summoner is by far the hardest because you are hardly doing any attacking. Summoner is based on summons, which is kind of obvious, and whips. Whips, they have a lot of range. You can get a lot of range out of them. You can do a lot of damage really quickly, but they don't do much. They're one of the fastest weapons in the game, but they are just super low damage. And that's kind of the main drawback of Summoner. Also, all the armor that benefits a Summoner class is very, very weak. You do almost nothing in a Summoner class, it's just summoning minions, but the summons aren't easy to get. That's what makes Summoner class very hard, but if you do everything right, it can turn into the easiest one, because you do literally nothing. So it's definitely the hardest to get into, easiest once you get everything prepared. Mage class is all about magic weapons. Mage is an interesting one. I don't really know how to put down mage. It's a very jack of all trades kind of class. The armor's not the best. It doesn't protect you the most, but it definitely protects you more than, say, Summoner. And the weapons, they don't deal the most damage, but they still do a lot, and they have good DPS. It's a very good class to start off with, and it's really a jack of all trades. It's not good at everything, but it can do everything. No, I worded that wrong. Frick. Ranger class is also an odd one. It's mainly DPS is your main focus. You don't have the most protection, but you still get a decent bit, and you are mostly using just guns and bows and arrows and all that. Really, it's how much damage you can put into a target at once. It's actually quite fun, like managing what ammo you use for, say, if you have a gun, what do you want? Tungsten bullets? Are you going to get bullets that have you get more money, or do more explosive damage, or do more damage per second? And for a bow, do you want an arrow that's better at piercing multiple targets, or does a lot of damage, or explodes on contact? It's a very versatile and such a fun class to play around with. It's one of the easier classes, and it kinda has the most weapons to it, because a lot of weapons are ranged weapons. It's a very fun one. It's actually my personal favorite class, and I would recommend it for starting off. The melee class is kind of a hard one, because swords have the shortest range out of any weapon, but it is a very powerful one, because swords do the most damage out of any weapon. If you get hit by a sword, it's most likely going to kill most enemies in one hit, and you do have the most protection, because melee-based armor gives you better protection. You have the best protection out of any piece of armor. You are going to be a massive tank. You are invincible, and you do an absurd amount of damage, but you lack one thing, and that is range. Melee builds are extremely hard, because you just can't attack the enemies. Because a lot of, especially flying enemies, like say the twins, they're very hard to hit with a melee class, because it's a sword, it's not a gun. So melee class is kind of a harder one. I wouldn't really recommend it for starting off, but it is definitely a fun one. The enemy design in Terraria is a very interesting one. There's a lot of different enemies. Most of them are pretty basic. Like, you have a zombie, you have, actually, come to think of it, there are, like, not really any basic. You have slimes, you have zombies, and those are really the ones you start off with. But you also get to more crazier things, like a piece of armor that's possessed, or a wraith, or 2 flying eyeballs that spits acid and shoots lasers, and Cthulhu even. There's just a lot of really diverse enemies, and you go from fighting things like a goblin armies invading your base, or pirates, or pumpkin-themed enemies, or Christmas-themed enemies. There's just a lot to the enemies. Some of them will do different things, like some of them will make you slow, some of them will make you run away, some of them will break your armor so your defense is cut in half. I hate those. I hate them so much. And there's a lot of different enemies, and the further you go into the game, the weirder and wackier. There's an event where solar eclipse happens, and it's all horror movie themed enemies, and it's just a blast. The enemy design is, it's all weird and wacky, and again, it's just very random, like the whole game. If you enjoy very randomness, wacky, just weird games in general that don't really have one genre, you will definitely like this game. The progression in Terraria is probably the best out of any game. You go from getting basic things like, say, an iron sword, some iron armor, maybe platinum bow, some decent stuff, and you fight, say, the Cthulhu for the first time. Maybe you have a couple staffs. It's really basic stuff that you've probably seen before. Then the game goes on, and you get, say, a jungle-themed armor. Then you fight this big worm dude called the Eater of Worlds, and he gives you some purple-themed armor with a purple sword. Then you get meteor armor, which is good for a mage build, and it's like space-themed, and you get a little space gun. Then you get literal hell armor that's made out of hellstone and molten, and you have a fire sword. The progression in the weapons is just really good, mainly from damage scaling. Like, all around the world, people will do way more damage than other biomes. Like, the snow biome is a very easy biome. All the enemies in the underground snowy biome are very easy, they don't do much damage. But the jungle biome, oh, the jungle. Oh, I hate the jungle. They do an absurd amount of damage, there's an absurd amount of them, they all have a lot of health. It's a really hard place to be, even in the late game, it's hard to be in there. And you're probably just gonna end up dying, but the loot you get from the jungle is some of the best in the game. So it's this risk versus reward. So, I would not recommend going into the jungle till you reach the underworld and get some hellstone. I would highly recommend going to the jungle then and get all the accessories. But the progression in the world it feels very nice. Like, you build your base in the starting forest biome, then you slowly expand, you start building pylons which allow you to teleport to different biomes, and you slowly but surely build bases all across the world, and it just feels very satisfying watching your little empire slowly grow. And progression in Terraria gets completely flipped on its head, where after you defeat the boss in the underworld called the Wall of Flesh, you enter the second stage of Terraria. You enter hard mode. Where to begin discussing hard mode? It's hard. Hard mode is the second stage of Terraria, where they add 10 times more bosses, 10 times more ores, 10 times more loot, and 10 times more enemies. It just gets insane. All the world evils spread way faster. There's a new biome called the Hollow. There's 3 more ores. There's a bunch of different bosses, a bunch of events, a crap ton of new weapons. And it is insanity in the best way possible. Just that amazing chaos when you first enter hard mode and you're like struggling to survive is unimaginably fun. Not much more to discuss when talking about hard mode. It's just really hard. There's also the NPCs. The NPCs in Terraria are a whole other thing. It's a very surprisingly deep mechanic dealing with the NPCs. So you have to build bases for them to move into, but certain NPCs like certain biomes, so you have to build a base in each biome. They'll sell you better stuff if they are happier, so you just send them to the right biome. But some NPCs like each other more than others, so if you put 2 NPCs in a house that hate each other, they're not going to give you as good loot and their stuff's going to be more expensive. So you have to find what NPCs like each other and put them in. It's a very complicated process, but it's also super rewarding, and I kind of love it for that. And that's why I think Terraria is based. I'd like to thank you all for watching. I know I've been saying this a lot recently, but more machinima's on the way. Guard duty will be returning, and yeah, that's about it. Hope you all enjoyed, and as always, I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye.